What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Outrun, not garage?
One of the Outrun cars.
We're in an Outrun car. In fact, we're in the Outrun M3.
Oh man, the official.
The official.
Sanctioned.
Even has the license plate. So what are we doing today?
We are talking about some of the things I love and some of the things I hate about my 2009 E92 M3. I've been looking at prices. They are continuing to go down, and so I assume a lot of people who couldn't otherwise own one when they were new might be able to soon, like me. So I'm just gonna mention a few things that I love and a few things that I hate, and you can take that information with you moving forward. So, reference my notes here.
I don't know if there's anything to hate, but we'll see.
Not as many things as I thought. So I'm going to start with the things I love about this car. I had wanted to own an M3 for a very long time. I purchased a 2009 335i and only owned it for about 4 months and then upgraded to an M3, which was the right move. I wish I had just waited all along. But one of the biggest reasons I wanted to own an M3, and especially the E92 model, is the engine. So the S65 in this car is a 4-liter V8, puts out 414 horsepower, 295 foot-pounds of torque. You know, I don't get to really take advantage of those numbers often, but the V8 itself is a phenomenal engine. It redlines at 8,400 RPM, which is very uncommon for a V8, and it's just a ton of fun. It's a fantastic piece of work out of BMW, and it's the only V8 they ever put in an M3. So yeah, I love it. Alex, you have any thoughts on the
I love it. It sounds great. Not much to add from there. I think it is pretty amazing that it's a V8 in a production vehicle that redlines that high. That's just insane.
Yep.
It's kind of the last, don't want to say real M3, but you know, the last naturally aspirated M3, and that says a lot.
Definitely. Cool. So number 2, this one is subjective, but I personally love the look of the E92 M3. And so, you know, if you're not super familiar, the E92 is specifically the coupe. There's an E90, which is the sedan, and then there's the E93, which is the convertible. They look fine. I really think there's something off about the back end of the convertible. The lines on the, I guess that's the C-pillar, just looks kind of funky. But the E92 specifically, what I have described this car as would be a tuner muscle car. So it kind of looks like a tuner car. It you know, some of the lines on it and the vents and stuff, in my mind, make it look like a tuner car. But it's from BMW, so it's not, obviously. But then you have this big bulge. They call it the power bulge on the hood, to, you know, give the V8 some breathing room. And you get the quad exhaust in the back, and, you know, 9.5-inch wheels in the rear, and it's kind of got like the essence of a muscle car too. And even like at idle, it almost sounds like one. But I'm a big fan, you know, if you've seen my car, I love the sort of track-inspired look, and so, you know, slapping a big spoiler. You get the camera back there?
Yeah,
Can you see my spoiler?
You see that? Right there. Yep.
So I've got the spoiler and a diffuser and a front splitter, and I plan on lowering the car soon and all that stuff. And I just love the look of this car. I think it's really unique. You know, it's still almost a business classy car because it's a BMW, but then you can make it look really good with minimal effort.
Professional.
Yeah. Right? See that? BMW professional. Cool. So next point I would say is comfort. So Alex and I are driving around right now in a 414 horsepower V8, and it's very comfortable. It's relatively quiet. I do have an aftermarket exhaust on this, but it's great. I mean, you can daily drive this car. The dual clutch transmission on it, you know, it's not the most intelligent thing you'll ever use in a car, but it works, gets you around, and it's nice. It's comfortable. The seats are nice. It's exactly, if you've ever sat in a BMW, it's exactly what you'd expect. They did not compromise. I mean, they made a fast car, but they were like, well, it also needs to be nice to sit in. And it absolutely is. You have a really nice thick steering wheel and, you know, bolstered seats, and it's great. So the ride comfort, I haven't driven a lot of cars with what you consider like sport or track suspension. It's definitely on the stiffer side, but it's not like, I've heard people describe the Focus RS as like backbreaking.
Gotcha.
This is not. It's comfortable. You know, it soaks up bumps. It's a little bouncy, but
you know it's an M car. Like, this is my opinion. But when you get in it and you drive around in it, you can tell it's an M car, and you want to feel that way. But just like Michael was saying, you can drive this to work every day. It's super comfortable. I remember, a couple weekends ago, we drove down to Tacoma from Seattle, and I'm sure that was a really nice ride down there on the highway. So
absolutely,
you know it's an M car. You want to feel that when you're taking turns, but otherwise it's pretty comfortable.
Yep, it's planted, a little firm, but it works. So comfort. All right, next, this again is a subjective one, but I think this engine, for what it is, the price that you pay for this car, has got to be one of the coolest sounding engines around. Because it's a V8 and because it redlines so high, you can go from this really low end rumble like a muscle car all the way up to this almost exotic, you know, it's just screaming. You get this really metallic sound, you know, and when I bought this car, it didn't have a muffler. Whoever owned it before me did a muffler delete. I don't recommend that, by the way. But you could really just hear this thing like roar. It's impressive. The aftermarket exhaust I have on now is from a company called Megan Racing. It's a great sounding exhaust, really opens things up, but you don't have any drone. But this car, when you get it up close to redline, it is just unbelievable. And a few months ago, I did a car control clinic, and I really got to just lay into it. And man, like, I was so distracted focusing on like going around cones and all this stuff, but I never lost the ability to sort of save a little bit of my attention to listen to the exhaust. It's just something else. So I'm gonna roll down the windows. We can't go too fast here because it's a 35-mile-an-hour zone, but we'll get a little sound, and I'll probably cut in some drive-bys so you can hear it. Yep, not bad.
Not bad. Sounds pretty
great.
good.
All right, let's get these windows up.
Yeah.
So last thing I'm going to talk about that I really do love, you know, again, this is probably something that you would consider subjective, but I do not have the manual. I have the dual clutch version. It's an automated manual, sequential. I personally love it. I love that I can drive it almost like a manual car. You know, it's got the flappy paddles, and I can use the shifter. But don't be fooled. It is not an automatic transmission. This car will let you hit redline. Typically with a standard auto, it will not. It's not going to let you hurt the car, right? It's not a track car. It's not meant to be driven up to redline. This is an automated manual, and it is fast. So dual clutch, literally, it's what it sounds like. It's got two clutches, one for the even gears and one for the odds. So there's always a clutch ready to get you into the next gear. And I've heard people sort of describe it as like a gunshot, because it's just, you hit that paddle and it is immediate. I love it. Also, when you're cruising at a high speed and you drop it, it's one of the best sounds because it just kicks you down immediately, and it's so fun. But yeah, I'm sure owning a manual in this car would be really cool. I unfortunately live in, or not unfortunately, but I live in Seattle, where traffic is like the new cool thing, apparently. So I think it's nice that I get almost the best of both worlds. I get the comfort and relaxation of an automatic, But then when I want to have some fun or take it out to a car control clinic and, you know, leave it in second for like a little autocross course, there's a little 325 IS, I have the option. So
I will say that this transmission's pretty sweet as well. I am definitely one of those guys that always drives a stick, owns sticks today. But when I got in this car, and you know, Michael thankfully let me drive it a few times, it is so fast. I mean, it shifts way faster than you would ever want, or than you could ever shift yourself. And Michael's up here pointing at an E30. I believe this car has a. I think I've seen this guy before, but I think he's got a engine swap. His license plate says Empower, so I'm assuming that he has swapped the engine on it. But pretty sweet little ride here.
See you, dude.
Later. So we just parked, and I think it's a good segue for something that maybe isn't the best.
Yeah, so let's move into things I dislike. So this is the first one, and I knew going into buying this car what I was getting myself into. But let me tell you, living with it is different. The miles per gallon on this car is absolutely embarrassing. In the city, I average, no joke, this is the truth, between 12 and 15 miles per gallon. On the freeway, if I'm lucky, maybe 20. And so right now, my little, you know, trip meter that shows my average miles per gallon is hovering around 17. And that's because I've been driving to Alex's quite a bit, which is almost all freeway. The other thing is you have to put premium in it. Don't buy this car if you can't afford the gas. But let me tell you, I can drive and watch the gas gauge go down. It's also a 15-gallon tank. So 15 gallons of premium at close to $4, like almost once a week if you're driving it, you know, a decent amount. Yeah. So let's put some gas in the car.
Let's do it. All right. How's that gas?
I put 13.5 gallons of premium, and it was $52.
Sweet.
So, but we got a full tank, which means we'll make it back to your house just barely.
Just in time. It's a short drive, by the way.
Yeah, it is a very short drive. So let's talk about the next thing I don't like. It would be known issues. If you're planning on buying an E90, E9X, whatever, M3, do your research. The biggest common issue, well, I don't want to say common, but the biggest issue you will find if you search for M3 issues of this chassis is rod bearings. So I don't know how common it actually is. You know, I feel like it's a little bit blown out of proportion. Oh my gosh, this turn is taking forever. But it is not something to scoff at. If your rod bearings go, plan on having to buy a new engine, which from what I've read is about $25,000.
Jeez.
So apparently the clearance on the rod bearings is, you know, too tight, not enough oil gets in. If you have the wrong viscosity of oil in your car, you have other issues. People complain that this car should have been built with a dry sump system, whatever. Goes on and on. The first thing I did when I bought this car was get an oil analysis. So there's a company called Blackstone. I'll put a link to their site in the description. You send them, or you request a little container from them. They send that to you for free. You put some oil in it, you send it back. It's like $25, and they give you a report. And basically, they're looking for any metal that would be coming off of your rod bearings showing up in your oil. Mine came back clean, but I plan on checking it every single time I do an oil change. Luckily, you only have to change the oil every like 7,000 to 10,000 miles on these cars, which is nice. But don't mess around with that. Even if it's not a common issue, the fact that it is an issue kind of scares me. And as much as I love BMW and what they do, I think it's kind of a shame that it exists. For how beautiful this engine is overall, it's kind of a bummer. So after that, though, known issues, the next big thing, and I experienced this personally, is the throttle body actuators. So there are two actuators that control the valves that open each throttle body bank. Those are known to either the plastic gearing, I don't know why they chose plastic, but that either wears out, or what happened with mine is there are these little like electronic boards, and because they are very hot all the time, being close to a V8 engine,
They melt.
They melt, yeah. So when my left bank failed, when I pulled it off, I opened it up and I could see one of the little, I forget what they're called, I don't know electronic circuit boards well, I apologize, but it had fried itself. And my car was not drivable, like would not start. It was $1,200 to buy 2 new throttle body actuators, so not cheap.
Not even close.
Not even close. And I did the labor myself, so I did not pay someone to do that. If you have to pay someone to do it, you're looking at close to $2,000 easily. Double
up, yeah.
Yep. As for the rod bearings, I've had 2 quotes from 2 different shops if I want to get them preemptively replaced. A very well-known company in this area quoted me about $4,200. That includes a lot of other work though. That's engine mounts, replacing all the oil pan bolts, so on and so forth. The other shop, which was just the rod bearings, I believe it was $2,600. So again, know what you're getting into. It is a German car. German cars are notoriously expensive to maintain, to fix. It's not a bad car. It's not falling apart. The throttle body actuators, that's the only issue I've had with the car so far. But just have some money set aside. You might be excited that you bought one of these for $19,000, but I can assure you that is not how much the car is going to cost overall. So, okay, so the last point, and you guys might laugh at me for this, but it is something I kind of dislike, is how fast this car is. Again, 414 horsepower. I love that the car has that much horsepower, but honestly, when do you ever get to use that? If you are not tracking this car, do not expect to take advantage of all this car has to offer. I personally believe that the most fun you can have with the car is when you are at that car's limit. Good luck getting this car to its limits. Sometimes I will get on the freeway going a little quick, really rev it out, but even that, like, you're just not gonna get it to its limit ever. Not its limit of grip. I almost said grimmit.
Sure.
That should be a new word.
Term, yes.
Yeah, grimmit. Limit of grip. You're not gonna hit, its limit on speed, what it can deliver. I think on average this car does 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds. Like, it's so excessive. It's great. I love that it can do that, but do I actually get to do any of that? Absolutely not. So my goal at some point, and this is just kind of a side note, is I want to own Fiat 500 Abarth, because you can get those cars to their limit.
You're good.
I'm very confused by this stop sign.
That's another bad thing about M3s. They make you really confused about stop signs.
So as soon as you buy one, just you'll forget how to use your blinker. You'll cut people off constantly.
You become a BMW owner now.
You do. So yeah, I know it might sound silly, but I almost wish that I could, turn half of the cylinders off in this car. Drop it down to 250 horsepower, get better gas mileage, and then be able to really enjoy the car at its engine limit, at least. The chassis is another thing. Like, it's a beautiful chassis. This thing is capable of so much. It's basically ready for the track right out of, the dealership.
Out of the box, yep.
So, but yeah, that's it. I just wanted to kind of talk through the things I love and the things I hate. I will point to somewhere. I'm going to point to both so I can just pop it in where I need to. So the next video is I'm going to talk about what it has been like to own this car for almost a year now. I will tell you how much I paid for it. I'm not afraid to tell you that because it's not a lot of money. I'm going to, maybe touch on a few of the points I brought up here, but cost of ownership, and hopefully educate anybody that's out on the market looking for one of these. I did a lot of research. There's already a lot of great content, but I think I have some more to contribute, so check out that video. Yep. So one of the things, oh my gosh, we're gonna cut all this. Just 20-point turn here. This is embarrassing.
So one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, all right. Let's
Cool.
let's do this
Let's
for
do
real.
it.